Hello, I'm Eleanor Yates. The USS Emmons Legacy Committee works hard each year, arriving at a new or an improved essay question. All the members add their insights or comments, concerns, or approval before we all agree on the final question. And this year's question was no walk in the park. I'm going to read it to you, and I want you to listen to it carefully so you can actually think how you might have answered this essay question. Here we go. By the way, it says 500 to 750 words, and on the very bottom in fine print it says, please limit essay to 2 pages. So here we go. On April 6, 1945, Lieutenant John J. Griffin, a senior officer in command aboard the USS Emmons, suddenly found himself thrust into the midst of a life and death situation where he solely bore the burdensome responsibility of stepping up and making decisions that would determine whether many of his shipmates would live or die. For many of the Emmons crew members, their fate rested in his hands. Imagine if you were in his place on that fateful day aboard the stricken ship. So number 1, describe your thoughts and concerns and how you would handle such a situation. Describe, number 2, what enabled Lieutenant Griffin to rise to the occasion and successfully meet the challenge. Finally, 3, cite a specific individual on the national or international scene since the official end of World War II, September 2nd, 1945, aboard the USS Missouri, and describe how his or her heroic actions mirror the same unique characteristics and persona that was displayed by Lieutenant Griffin during a time of crisis. Not an easy thing to do. So I think you will admit when you hear the essays and some information from the essays today that you can actually understand the work that goes into these college and students who work to put all this together because of love and dedication for the Emmons. Now, this is the 4th year that the USS Emmons Association is awarding a scholarship, and the 2nd year that we are awarding an honorable mention scholarship. So at this time, we are pleased to announce that the 2013-2014 recipient of the Lieutenant John J. Griffin USS Emmons Honorable Mention Award of $500 is Eileen Catherine Courtney. Eileen is the granddaughter of shipmate James J. Corney and is the daughter of Jim and Catherine Corney. Eileen is in her 2nd year at Roger Williams University and is working toward a degree in graphic design communication. Eileen's essay begins with a detailed description of what the Emmons must have looked like after the attack of the 5 kamikazes and of what Lieutenant Griffin and the crew must have thought and felt. Eileen explains how Lieutenant Griffin chose to fight and not take flight, and to use her words, quote, he rose to the occasion, courageously leading his crew through a period of death and destruction where acts of uncommon valor and raw courage were the norm rather than the exception, end quote. She goes on to tell what Lieutenant Griffin did to secure the Emmons for the time being, and Eileen continues with what she thinks she might have done in the same situation. She would also have tried to regain order, and then her priority would be to, quote, protect the wounded men and guide those who were uninjured in firefighting and damage control, end quote. According to Eileen, Lieutenant Griffin should also be respected and admired due to his, quote, composure and selflessness, end quote. Eileen ends her essay by comparing another situation where ordinary citizens of today showed heroism in a moment's notice. She explains some of the heroic acts carried out right after the Boston Marathon bombings this past April. She explained how one man's heroic act in particular, a Carlos Arredondo, caught her attention. We invite all of you to read Eileen's essay, which will be displayed in the hospitality room. so you will get a true sense of conviction and dedication of this fine young lady. I would now like to ask Eileen to come forward to receive her award of honorable mention. And I'm not sure if we've done this before. We keep forgetting what we do year to year, but I just thought I'd just briefly read what is on this certificate before I hand it to Eileen. In honor of the USS Emmons and her crew members who served our country so courageously, and the men who made the ultimate sacrifice on April 6, 1945, the honorable mention, Lieutenant John J. Griffin, USS Emmons Memorial Scholarship for the 2013-2014 academic year is awarded to Eileen Catherine Corney, granddaughter of James J. Corney, on this date, September 28th, 2013. Thank you. Thank you. Congratulations. Eileen, would you like to just, yeah, and then we're going to have her picture taken. Would you want to just say a word? Yeah.
Thank you, Emmons Association, for this award. It makes paying for my education at Roger Williams University more affordable, and my family and I are extremely grateful. This scholarship contributes to my dream of studying graphic design, marketing, and the fine arts, and it makes it a reality. The acts of violence and terrorism that I mentioned within my essay scares me, but at the same time, knowing that there are Americans out there today who demonstrate such bravery and selflessness gives me hope. My grandfather, Jim Corney, and the other USS Emmons members who surround you today each displayed heroism years ago at sea. Today, they're all symbolic of what a true American is. Lieutenant Griffin's memory lives on through this organization, and I'm so grateful that they give my grandfather and his fellow shipmates the recognition that they've earned. I truly am so proud to be the granddaughter of one of these American heroes. Thank you.
We're going to just have Eileen go over and get a picture with her grandfather right now, okay, with the award. I'm just going to take one too. Excuse me. Very good. Thank you. Moving along. And now, for our other winner, we are all pleased to announce the 2013-2014 recipient of this year's Lieutenant John J. Griffin USS Memorial Scholarship of $2,000 is going to Sarah Elizabeth Hoffman. Sarah is the granddaughter of shipmate Ed Hoffman and is the daughter of Tom and Diane Hoffman. Sarah is in her final year of study at Villanova University School of Law. According to some of Sarah's professors, she is highly perceptive, is a creative thinker, and has tenacity. Sarah was elected by her peers to represent her class at the Student Bar Association and was again elected to serve as treasurer. When she took the legal analysis, writing, and oral advocacy class, a lot right there, Sarah was only one of a few students who received an A, which reflects, according to her professor, quote, very high quality writing, organization, and analysis, end quote. I will now ask Sarah to come up and read her essay to you. Remember that essay question. And please remember that her essay will also be displayed in the hospitality room. So, Sarah, will you come up and get your reward, and then you could read your essay. Thank you. In honor of the USS Emmons and her crew members who served our country so courageously, and the men who made the ultimate sacrifice on April 6, 1945, the Lieutenant John J. Griffin USS Emmons Memorial Scholarship for the 2013-2014 academic year is awarded to Sarah Elizabeth Hoffman, granddaughter of Edwin L. Hoffman, on this date, September 28th, 2013. Here you go. Thank you. Go ahead. You can say something.
Good evening, everyone. I wanted to start out by echoing Eileen's words in thanking all of you and the Emmons Association for this scholarship opportunity. And I'm really so grateful to have been selected. This scholarship, it's not only financial support for me in my final year of law school, but it really has a lot of personal meaning to me as well. I think that the Emmons family has always been a big part of the Hoffman family. And from a young age, I've been interested in the history of the Emmons, whether it be playing with my grandfather's keys when I was crawling around and walking around when I was younger, or writing my reports in middle school about the Emmons. And I'm more proud of my grandfather than I could ever put into words. So I'm happy that was not the essay prompt this year. But thank you for the opportunity to honor the Emmons and to honor her crew and their sacrifice and courage. So I started my essay with a quote from the Emmons saga. If there is anything that stands out above all else, it is the concern that every man displayed for his shipmates, a willingness to share, if need be to sacrifice self to help someone else. And of course, there was always a burning desire to save their ship. On April 6, 1945, the men aboard the USS Emmons demonstrated superior selflessness and resolve, and no one exhibited these qualities more so than Lieutenant John J. Griffin. As a gunnery officer on the Emmons, Lieutenant Griffin began the day like any other, but he soon found himself the senior officer in command amidst the fire and carnage of the stricken ship. With Captain Foss in the water and Executive Officer Lieutenant Linz missing, Lieutenant Griffin recognized himself the commanding officer aboard the ship, and he quickly rose to the occasion. Lieutenant Griffin steadfastly led the crew's efforts to save the ship and to care for the wounded. He restored leadership to a crew who had no clear direction following the destruction and loss of communication, and he remedied misunderstanding by countermanding the abandoned ship rumor. Without hesitation, Lieutenant Griffin made tough decisions to keep men aboard in an attempt to save the ship while evacuating the wounded, ultimately deciding that the damaged Emmons would have to be abandoned. Had I been in Lieutenant Griffin's place, I would have addressed the situation in a similar manner, although I can only pray to have as much courage in the face of intimidating danger. From a young age, I was taught the importance of values such as selflessness and leadership, which I strive to embody in my everyday life. My education has taught me to think on my feet and practice analytical skills, and I am confident that these abilities would enable me to evaluate the situation and make swift, informed decisions, just as Lieutenant Griffin did that day. Similar to Lieutenant Griffin, I would have significant concerns for the wounded. By evacuating them while keeping the seriously injured aboard with an emergency raft available, Lieutenant Griffin created the best possible scenario for crew member safety. Exploding ammunition boxes, reoccurring fires, and the gun-to handling room explosion would have greatly concerned me, but I would have tried to continue preservation efforts for as long as possible, and I would not have abandoned ship until the sweep unit was there to ensure the safety of severely wounded men. Like Lieutenant Griffin, I would serve as an unwavering leader to instill confidence and provide clear, unpanicked direction. Multiple factors enabled Lieutenant Griffin to rise to the occasion that day. Situational factors such as experience and training largely account for his resolve and his swiftness. However, personal factors such as leadership, bravery, steadfastness, quick thinking, and selflessness empowered Lieutenant Griffin in his new role. A leader must be able to step up unexpectedly without hesitation, and Lieutenant Griffin succeeded under this pressure. His ability to articulate a plan quickly proved invaluable, and his dedication to the crew and the ship were admirable. Lieutenant Griffin also demonstrated compassion as he aided others during his descent from the director. His decisions to help Elliot and to assist my grandfather down the mainmast ladder reveal a level of selflessness that many great leaders possess. Most of all, Lieutenant Griffin's bravery allowed him to prevail as a strong and heroic leader that the Emmons needed that day. The heroic actions of former first grade teacher Vicky Soto mirror the same unique characteristics and persona displayed by Lieutenant Griffin. A victim of the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting, Vicky became a national hero when she was killed while protecting her students by locking them in a closet and diverting the shooter. By quickly hiding them and claiming that they were in gym class, she was able to preserve the lives of those she was responsible for in a quick and efficient manner, similar to Lieutenant Griffin. Both individuals undoubtedly received training to prepare them for crises, but they had to rise to the occasion on these fateful days in the face of danger. Vicky and Lieutenant Griffin demonstrated an ability to make quick decisions as leaders when superiors were not available, and to act diligently and selflessly. Emerging as heroes, Vicky and Lieutenant Griffin represent a distinct level of bravery, camaraderie, and self-sacrifice that was apparent across all Emmons crew members on April 6, 1945. Thank you.
And we're going to have her picture taken also with Ed. There we go. Very good. Now, as you can tell, the Emmons family continues to grow, and it becomes more and more important for future generations to learn about the Emmons legacy. You've heard these two young ladies talk and give thanks and their dedication and love for the Emmons, the crew, and of course their families. So I just wanted to stress the importance and the value of supporting the scholarship awards each year. Will continue to be the quote-unquote anchor that helps preserve your legacy. So I would hope that in the future, please tell your families to look online for the next essay question, and anything's possible in any family with any of these essays. So let's support it and let's keep the legacy alive. Thank you very much.